you are having a challenge with respect to your meetings, and you see there's a problem, but from this takeaway, if you change that perspective to see this as a fun situation, it changes the whole dynamic immensely. So that is my major takeaway.
I had fun. It might be an interpersonal issue, or it might just be a standard way of working. And I'm speculating that there might be some value to using made up activities, where people are just going to riff on something that's ill-defined and not expect to take something out of it to their next work activity.
My nice evenings after the work, and then I still come over, and then it's my finishing. All right.
I think to see people who really were from a wide variety of circumstances come together without needing that kind of permission, without needing anything to prompt engagement in this kind of thing, that really did open up some really heartfelt sharing, was beautiful.
And every time I have a great time, but it's also one of the first things that I cut when capacity is stretched. And it does so much to recharge my energy that is just the wrong choice. And I know it's the wrong choice. And when I come back and I get to do something like this, I'm reminded.
And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to begin with. So this concept of group dynamics is kind of a funny one, right? So what does that even mean? Well, one definition of group dynamics is that it is the processes and social interactions that influence a group's energy, motives, attitudes, and behavior. So groups, more than one person, dynamics, they're fluid, they're changing, they range. Today, we are going to try a whole series of activities, each of which is intended to create a different dynamic, right? So we get to control the activities, the processes that we encourage. We don't get to control what actually happens. The dynamic is something we can influence, but not actually make happen. But we're going to do our best to see if we can create some of these different feelings. So we're going to start today with one called Spiral Journal. And as we go along, I'm going to go ahead and put a note in the chat showing where we are and what our intention is for what we're doing. So we're starting on Spiral Journal, and our intention is to create focus, presence, and connection. And to do that, you're actually going to need a piece of paper. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. If you can, I would love for you to grab a piece of blank white paper. Yeah, great, wonderful. And a pen. But before you use that pen, you're going to take this piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half, one way. And then you're going to fold it in half a second way until you get a square with, 4 sides to it. And once you have your square, you can go ahead and open it back up. Your ability to find a square on a piece of paper you haven't folded will also work. And you're going to take your pen, not in the air, because this would be insanely difficult, but like on your desk or something. And you're going to take your pen and you're going to place it right in the middle of this piece of paper. And you're going to draw a spiral. Your spiral is going to cross all 4 corners. It's going to be as tight and tidy as possible. No 2 lines will ever cross. We're doing this because this is a moment to become present, to focus right here, right now, on just making the best possible spiral you can make. Nothing else matters. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to just make absolutely the best possible spiral you can. Now, if you have a beautiful spiral in the middle of a piece of paper, hopefully you've had a chance to breathe and become present. and just be here. Because you've also created a blank space in which you can start to jot down some ideas about why you're here. So in the top right corner, the first question I want you to answer is, what brings you here today? What brings you here today? And jot down some thoughts. I'll tell you one of the reasons we're here today. So we are here today to look at this concept of group dynamics and specifically changing group dynamics. So how can we use processes and social interactions to influence a group's energy, attitudes, motives, and behavior? And we look at this from the context of meetings because meetings are a place where we create and shape a lot of those group dynamics, right? Before this moment, we were all individuals dealing with whatever we were dealing with. And then we come into the space and we become a group. And ideally, we all then leave with something that we share, a mission, a result, something we're doing together. And if you have a chance to look through the meeting literature and the theory, you'll often see that meetings are represented by this sort of double diamond shape. This sort of like there's a pencil end here and a pencil end there. And you look at that shape a little bit more closely. Here's why it's drawn that way. At the beginning of the meeting, we've come from wherever we've come, and then we work to create focus. And then in the middle, things happen. We interact, right? And that can be kind of messy. But then at the end, we leave with a shared result. The Hungarian linguist coined these terms. He says, we come in together and then we diverge into the space. Some things emerge, and then we look to converge on a result together. So meetings are a place where we can influence those dynamics incredibly. And really, those dynamics are not all, even keel. It's not just about being pleasant. This is Sam Kainer's diamond of participatory decision making. And he shows how sometimes when we get into that divergent zone and we're going outside of business as usual, we will then find ourselves in this place where things get hard. Right? Some of the dynamics we're dealing with at groups are conflict and uncomfortable and awkward. Call this the groan zone. And then after we get through the groan zone, if we find a way to work through that, we get to that closure zone at the end. Now, if you look at the shape, you step back and sort of think about it as a dynamic shape, it's not that different than the way that we draw the dynamic shape of a plot line to any great story, right? We walk into the story, it gets set up and things start to happen, and then we get a climax, after which we can then resolve it and get to some resolution before we move on. So dynamics in groups have these shapes, they have energy to them. In your next quadrant, I would love for you to write down for my group, the groups that you think about working with or that you serve, what are the most frequent dynamics? And so far in our conversation about dynamics, we've been looking kind of what was happening within a story or a meeting. But really with groups, the more important dynamics, the things that we can design are processes that move energy, attitudes, and whatnot over the course of time. We want to look at designing dynamic group systems. So really, if you look at any project, it's got to start, it's got to finish, and there are a bunch of meetings in the middle. And you could draw them this way. There are just a bunch of meetings. But that isn't really what's happening, right? Actually, we're dealing with different kinds of dynamics throughout the process. So this is the British Design Council's double diamond. This is the way they express it shape-wise. You start with a problem and you diverge, you explore the space until you converge on what that definition of the problem might be. And then once you've figured out exactly what problem you're trying to solve, you find all the ways you might solve it before you converge on a solution. And yet still, this has got that sort of diamondy shape. And we have found in our work at Lucid Meetings that when you think about the kinds of energy that's created in meetings, you can represent it with different kinds of shapes. And that when you have a system with different kinds of shapes in it, it's more successful. So here is a successful way of running meetings for a leadership team, for example. And it has some diamonds in it. It's got some workshops and some decision making and some more strategy workshops. And those are where big energy moments happen. But you don't do big energy moments all the time because then you burn out. So you've got other things. You've got these kind of circly progress checks and check-ins and whatnot that kind of keep the ball rolling in between those big diamondy energy moments. And then you've got some blocks, some places where you stop and you make sense of what's happening and you build on what you've done so far so that you're smarter, better for moving forward. But you can't be all just blocks, because then you're not going anywhere. Can't just be learning, got to be some doing. Can't be just doing without having energy injections, because then you get bored. So thinking about the different kinds of energy and the different kinds of dynamics at work in your teams over time, what's the dynamic you'd most like to shift? Okay. So final look at this concept of what group dynamics are at all. We're going to go ahead and tie it back to another place in a human system where we play with dynamics all the time, right? So we've been looking at these diamonds and these things all together. So this is the dynamic range, the picture made by a very popular piece of music that is showing some of those patterns like we saw with the different meeting flows. We're going to go ahead and play this for you. And as I play it, I want you to answer this final question. What's coming up for me as I listen to this song on the topic of group dynamics? So we've explored this concept of dynamics. Now let's take a second to connect with why we're here and what that means for you at this moment. So we're going to send you into small groups, and I think you're going to get to know these people really well. How fun is that going to be? And in your group, you're going to take turns sharing your name, what brought you here today, and one idea or question about group dynamics that is now top of mind for you. Julie? Oh, welcome back. Zip, 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 that was done. Welcome back. I hope you had a lovely conversation while short. So we've got a lot of things we're going to get through today, and I would love to hear how it all went for everybody, but we just don't have that kind of time. So instead, oh, good, Sue. What I'm going to ask you to do after each one of these activities is just to share in the chat, which group dynamics did you observe there? I'm being intentionally vague. Whatever it is that you cottoned on to, that you saw happen in the interactions, behaviors, attentions, motives in the team that struck you. Empathy, lovely. Nice turn taking, wonderful. Connecting. Hooray, that was one of the intents. And convergence, wonderful. Okay, very cool. So that's what we had intended, some of it, and some of it is some things that you brought, right? That's the thing about group dynamics. Whoever shows up is half of the, or maybe all of the picture. So next, we're going to switch gears and go into something completely different. And I'm going to hand it over to Chris. We are going to be looking at sell this product, completely different activity, different intent.
Thank you, Elise. That was wonderful. Hello, guys. I want to try something. How about you touch your nose if you're still with me? Touch your nose. Great. So I want to paint a picture for you for this activity. In this activity, I want you to imagine that you're on a sales and marketing team. Okay, and you're at a company, maybe like Amazon. And Amazon's going to give you this product, and because the engineers came up with it and they think it's so cool. They hand you this product and they ask you to come up with some marketing copy and a sales pitch to sell it. Okay. And it's the start of the project, so you have to get really creative and put your creative thinking hat on and identify a customer, identify their problems, and then somehow connect it to the solution that they've had. You understand? You're going to be selling this product. In this activity, you're going to work together in a group of 3 or 4 to co-create the sales pitch using a formula that I'll show you in a moment to help create this sales pitch. I'm going to share my screen. Before we go off into breakout rooms of 3 and 4, I wanted to show you what the sales pitch looks like that you're going to be co-creating with your team. It looks like something like this. You're going to identify as a group who the customer might be, what their problem is, why this problem is so bad, and then the unique solution. In this case, the unique solution that you're selling is a toilet with 3 handles. Sound fun? You can co-create it in this space to the right over here. Okay? And if you also notice, right here we have group 1. When we put you into breakout rooms, if you're in breakout room 1, you'll be coming to this group 1 slide. If you're in group 2 or breakout room 2, you'll be coming to this group 2 slide. Correct? And same with group 3. So remember, sales pitch, feel free to be a little wild and creative and have fun with it. Any questions?
I feel like it's a really dumb question. When you say handle, what do you mean by handle?
Good point. So it seems to be culturally relative.
Yeah.
I think of a handle, it's like actually like
the chain, the flush.
Well, let's leave this intentionally vague.
Got it. Okay.
We're going to leave it intentionally vague for you.
Thanks.
That's a great question. Anyone else have a question? Okay, get ready to sales. So, and another caveat, write your script. We might have a couple of you share share the sales pitch with us afterwards, if someone feels brave. Okay. All right. So groups of 3 or 4. We have the proper Google Slides. Was everyone able to get that? And we are ready to go. We'll see you in 8 minutes with a sales pitch. Welcome back, everyone. I saw a couple smiles. How was it?
I see some thumbs.
Let's read through a couple of these, unless we have a volunteer that would like to pitch us their solution or their marketing copy. We'd love to hear it.
Chris, can you drop those slides in the chat? I didn't get them. I can fill in our slide while we're doing that.
We had people from different countries, and so the first question of what's a handle?
Wow.
Because there's a bias on the question. It's a North American bias, and we had somebody from France, we had somebody from Germany, I lived in Switzerland for 3 years, and obviously have traveled to France and so on. So I know that, some countries don't have handles. They have a button on the wall, a panel, or they might have on the toilet 2 buttons. And so what's a handle? So are we talking about a camping toilet where we have handles on it to bring it from one place to another? So we spent a lot of time figuring out what's the handle or the button, and we did get through the discussion a little bit and figured, okay, we're going to have 3 buttons or handles for small, medium, large sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll share that we had the same handle conversation. So what is a handle? And we determined that for the creativity component, handle was 3 pieces of functionality that we could define any way we wanted. And when discussing what are the most frustrating things about using a toilet for the average toilet user, I said, gosh, one, staying clean personally, but also keeping the toilet clean. So our added functionality was flushing, primary feature, auto cleaning, so a button that has the toilet clean itself, so you don't have to. And then an integrated bidet, which are seeing a rise in popularity here in the United States with companies like Tushy. What if we had all of those things integrated into the toilet in itself?
I'll jump in. This is Emily. I was part of group 1, and we were very process oriented. We were like determined to try and figure this thing out, and why you would have 3 handles and how you could actually use it and how it might be helpful for people with disabilities. So we kind of took it as a serious exercise.
Fascinating.
So here we are. I think we did this. This is wonderful. Group 1, people use toilets and can't use or source toilet paper. So they have a paper shortage, need alternative toilet paper, or maybe unable to process the paper, or wants to be clean, sustainable, climate friendly. Wash, blow dry, flush. Would anyone like to pitch that from group 1? Give a little bit more context. We have a lot of mute going on right now.
Not really.
Okay, it's okay.
Not me.
How about group 3?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
For parents of toddlers tired of lifting their child to reach the adult handle and traumatizing the child hanging over the dreaded toilet bowl, we've got a deal for you. Our innovative family-friendly solution, Try Flush, takes the drama out of this essential activity by creating a child-friendly flushing option.
Yay!
8-minute masterpiece.
Kudos to John and Gillian. They're very creative.
Fun. Well, thank you very much, Sue, and thank you very much, everyone. What group dynamics did you notice while you're going through that activity? If you can enter into the chat.
Is that for all of us?
Yeah.
We move fast in this workshop.
Yeah, that's cool.
Building on collaboration, chiming in. And on each other's ideas, humor.
It should say fast, not fast.
You were moving fast.
For those were the time we had to move collaborative. Take content that could be taken a few different ways, like they have too much power. Turn taking on the message, sharing experiences. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that activity.
So as you look across this list, think about the times in your work life where that's what you want, right? Where is it you want people to be collaborative, to have fun, to build on each other's ideas, not tear each other down, right? 8 minutes. Now we're going to, my job is to show where we're at. So we did sell the product. We did the spiral journal to become creative, or connected, and we did sell the product to get our creative juices going. Now we are at Let's Get Physical. And this is about harmony, attention, and energy.
Thank you, Elise. Okay, guys, in this activity, we want to envision that we've been at a meeting and maybe it's been going for a while, and some people might even think it's the groan zone. Maybe people are tired. It's been an hour or so seated. You've been thinking hard, but if you can just get that little bit of energy, you might be able to push through to a decision or whatever purpose you're trying to achieve. We could choose 100 different activities to get people moving and maybe energized and maybe unblock the lag or the apathy in a group. I'm going to try to facilitate one. A simple one that I've seen used with executives is share a stretch. And the way this works is, in this case, I'm going to share my favorite stretch. People will mimic that stretch, and then I will invite someone else to share their favorite stretch. We will mimic that stretch, and then the process goes on of inviting someone new. Okay? So here we go. I'm actually going to take this moment to stand up. And my favorite stretch is arm in front, stretch it across, other arm. Be careful not to rip your jacket like me. Ah, yeah, that feels really good. How about you, Jeff? What's your favorite stretch?
My favorite stretch is taking my hands, clasping them together, stretching them out, and then raising it up. I'm just trying to just pull out my body as much as possible.
So hello, one of my favorite stretch go like this. You sit and you put your hands behind your head and you just let the weight of your hands on your head and let it rest like this a little bit.
In this activity, we have three characters. We have a robot. Everyone do the robot. We have, there's some good robot. John, that was good. Fully committed. We have a tiger. Robot. I don't really know what a robot will look. It's kind of like great. Those are great robots. Cow. Moo. So we have tiger, robot, cow. Nice. And we have a cow. We have a lot of wonderful. Everyone's got it. So to repeat, we have a robot, tiger. Got some differentiation. Who's going to be changing? Who's going to be changing? Nikki, welcome back. And a cow. We got them all. Tiger, Wonderful. The goal for this activity, and we might do like a test run first before we get fully into it to demo it. But the goal of this activity is to ultimately have everyone on the Zoom panel be the same character. Okay, that's the ultimate goal. We don't know how long it's going to take or how we're going to get there, but you can't talk. You can only notice what other people are doing, and we're all going to try to get to be the same character. We're either all going to be a robot, a cow, or a tiger. Okay? So actually, let's start off that way. We're going to start that. So we're no talking. You can switch up your characters, but let's see if we can just get to everyone on the same screen first. I'm going to count down from 3 and we'll get started. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We did it! Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. Now we're going to spice it up a little bit. And for a little bit extra energy, remember we're in the groan zone. People are tired. They're being kind of lame. We need them to energize so we can finish this thing up, right? That's how you're going to get them to do this. I'm going to add a little bit of music to start this. So instead of counting down from 3, I'm going to play some music, okay? And we're going to dance a little bit. We're going to bop and jive, however you feel, okay? When I turn off the music, that's when we start the game. Sound good? Any questions? Okay, so here we go. Let me know if this sound is okay. Remember, we're dancing. Here we go. When I turn it off, we start.
I think Chris is frozen. He's frozen.
At least he's smiling. Oh, he's gone now.
We should all pick a different thing and be it when he got. Let's do unicorns.
Okay. Here he comes. Yeah. Hi, Chris. You got to guess what we are.
You're muted.
I'm going to guess sharks. How close am I?
Way off.
Gnomes with pointy hats.
We have 4 legs.
You're what?
We have 4 legs.
Each.
Unicorn.
Yay!
Yay! So no, it was great. So as you can see, it doesn't. We did test run the activity, but remember, there's 100 of them. We could have done 100 different ones. The idea is that if you're in a groan zone, there are interventions to unblock the group. I hope you enjoyed it. I did like that little trick. Thank you.
I think your trick was better though. You had a big smiley face when you got stuck. That was quite funny.
Oh, really? So to end this activity, in the chat, let's go ahead and write out what group dynamics did you experience during that previous activity?
Chris, can I ask you a practical question?
Sure.
Do you use that activity with really big groups where we don't get to see everybody on screen?
Very good question. No. We had to back up just in case there were too many people. Because there's a million ways to do it. You can also be like, the goal of this is to have 3 people on the screen. Everyone else has to duck out. And it's just like, everyone starts ducking and moving and noticing who's there until there's 3 people on the screen. Then you can do, there's a million different ways to do it. Very good question.
We are doing an event in November with Mark Collard, who is a play specialist, and he's from Australia, so it'll be an Australian time zone one. And he does things where he reads the Mrs. Right and Mr. Right, and they left and they right, and you do things like that kind of activities too. Very cool. So that was an energizer, right? Think about some times where that might be useful. And now we're going to switch it up again with another activity. This time, we are going to work on prioritizing requirements, which is the activity is a modified version of min specs, which is a liberating structure. But our intent now is very distinct. We're going to get into some conflict and some convergence.
Thank you, Elise. In this activity, we're still at the same company as we were for the marketing and sales pitch. But this time, we've been tasked by the executives to come up with suggestions or requests to see how to launch this product successfully. Okay? So you've got this 3-handled toilet. And you want to ask yourself, what needs to be true for this 3-handled toilet to be successful? What needs to be true for this 3-handled toilet to be successful? We're going to give you 1 minute to write down as many ideas as you can. So 60 seconds, you're going to need a paper and a pencil to write down as many ideas, recommendations, suggestions. Answer the question, what needs to be true to have this product be successful? So you can then give it to the executives. Sound good? 60 seconds on the clock, please. Heads up, 7-0. So that was fun. You just wrote down a bunch of ideas on or recommendations for these executives. And that's great. Now the challenge is getting into a team, sharing those ideas or those recommendations with each other's, and whittling all those ideas down into 3 to 5 specific requests that you need from the executives to make this product successful. So for the second part of the activity, we're going to be getting back into the Google Slides, and you're going to be getting back into the teams that you were with the marketing or with the sales pitch. You are going to each, in your breakout rooms, every participant will share their ideas, and then somehow whittle those down into 5 ones or 5 requests, 3 to 5 requests that you are going to tell the executives. Make sure that you challenge each other's ideas and see what happens. Does that make sense? So it's going to be the same as before. If you're in group 1, you're going to go to slide group 1, and it's going to say, imagine you're walking to the boardroom and ask for this. So it's that, and each group has their own slide. Makes sense? Go ahead, challenge each other's ideas, whittle it down to 5. and we'll see you in 8 minutes. Welcome back. Welcome back. How is that? We have some great slides to review. And even better if someone would like to share out instead of myself. Share their recommendations that they came up with and their experience during that activity.
We actually wanted to know why we had to have 3 handles. Could we have instead a handle, a button, a foot operated pedal, and then for extra bonus points, we wanted it voice activated. So you could tell the toilet to flush. So, well, I think we all just sort of brainstorming about if we wanted to, and if the toilet is, we had some requirements to say, first of all, you'd want to see it in institutional settings or for senior living facilities, because it would need to be justified cost-wise and also have a clear need indicated. And so we went from there to think if we had to put it in those settings, why wouldn't you want these other elements instead of 3 handles? So.
We weren't quite sure what our scope was, but we included things like the handles better be clearly labeled because you don't want to invoke the wrong function at the wrong time. That could be disconcerting.
Well, I'm happy to share for our group 3. Seeing as we've got it up on the screen now. We had a bit of deliberation about the task, I guess, and I think that's an interesting observation when you send people off into a breakout group. There's often a bit of chit chat about process. What are we supposed to be doing again? Even though you gave us the instructions, Chris. So we compromised and went, we've got some stuff around product, but we've also got some things, practical things that we need to be asking the board or in order to launch our product. So as you can see on the screen, we've said we definitely need lots of money to launch it. In terms of product, we want to make sure that it's priced appropriately. It needs to be low cost enough that parents of toddlers would go and buy it and have it shipped to them. We want it to be child friendly so that it makes toilet training less of a trauma and the child themselves wants to be toilet trained. And as you can see, we want to make it easy to use so that parents can add it and take it away once the toddlers grow out of the need for it. Finally, we, of course, as the marketing team, need lots of time and resources, people, bodies, market research, etc., to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned kind of the deliberation around maybe the vague instructions, or what the goal of the activity or exactly what the deliverable was. You want to explain that a little bit, like how you were able to...
I might ask John to comment because he had a really great way of looking at it from more through the business lens. John, do you want to chip in there?
Yeah, so I just echo exactly that. It's like, even though we tell the instructions, every time we go to a breakout room and any of these things, it's always like, okay, now what was it again? Because we're in a group context and we're listening, and then we're whisked away into a breakout room where now we're in charge of ourselves. So now we have to go, oops, did we get the instructions? In terms of what we were talking about, we had 2 things to talk about because we were asked to think about individually what needs to be true for this product to be successful. So the first part of it was to do some work around what is the product to be successful? What does it mean? What does it need? So there were 2 dimensions that we got onto, which was a dialogue about what the product itself, its features, and then a dialogue around what the business needed to provide. So what is the definition of success? Was it a definition of success that the product performed its function? It was delightful for the toddler to use? Or was the product success that we could create we could find a market for it and sell it at a price point that made it fiscally alluring for the company to go after? So we had to kind of negotiate our way around those 2 sets of criteria and figure out which questions we wanted to answer and focus most on.
When you say negotiating, what was that? Part of the instructions were to challenge each other's ideas. What was that? What did that look like? Was that the negotiation that you mentioned?
Yeah, and I think it was quite respectful though. Like, we weren't saying, no, you can't do that. It was like, oh, we hadn't thought of that, and tell me more, so we could understand where John was coming from, because his perspective compared to mine and Gillian's was completely different. So we had to do a little bit of asking questions and listening.
And I think it's a lot easier in this context because we've got no skin in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm quite keen on the trifle. I think it's a winner.
I'll support you, Sue.
Yeah, thanks. I think that the dynamic was really interesting. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And how often do we, in a business context or when we're working with clients, get incredibly clear instructions on exactly what success means or the definitions of any task, right? So what a fascinating thing to pull from that. Very cool.
And what I found is the answers we came to had more depth because we allowed each person to contribute what they could. And I find that fascinating in a group sometimes where you get led down a way because that's the loudest person in the room has said that's how they think it's the way it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it was mostly just about getting all the ideas out. We had so many things to bring out in a compressed time that we really had to sort of talk fast, think fast, interact, and adjust fast to sort of get it all out there at the point. And then thankfully, somebody wrote it down. I think it was you, Sue, right?
Well, thank you, guys. I think this is a really constructive discussion. I wanted to acknowledge all the great work that you did. I saw their slides. Thank you for taking the activity seriously. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to go deep into what you experienced, but we can share in the chat what group dynamics you noticed during that activity. So go ahead and run into the chat.
And I'm looking forward to reading what the other groups did too, because fascinating.
Curiosity and asking questions. Yeah, this is all part of coming to alignment, a fun attitude. Well, that's good than combative, probing questions. I feel like these are all conducive to a convergent behaviors or dynamics.
So the bit where it was fun and you were listening and you were sharing, we've done some things before this to help set up that environment, right? We influence our processes to create different attitudes and behaviors. We have to come to convergence often. What can you do in your own work? Some things to think about that can set people up to enter that state in a state of fun, in a state of cooperation. And now we're going to completely change gears yet again. So here we are on the plan. We are now onto an exercise called Experts of You. This is Chris and I've kind of made this up. It's sort of a hodgepodge exercise that is intended to create a very, very different dynamic. All right. So we are after, in this case, empathy and appreciation. And it can be a little intense. So I'll just tell you right now up front that you are the expert of you, which means that you are the expert of how you show up, how you decide to interpret this particular exercise, and what you choose to share when we get to the stage of sharing. But essentially, it begins with a moment where we're going to learn to tune in to what is great about our individual lives, right? So all of us have something in our life now that's kind of fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and play some music to help me stay on track time-wise as I do this. And I'm going to read to you a little statement. I want you to go ahead and just close your eyes. I want you to imagine that you've lost your right arm. There's nothing there but a stump hanging from your shoulder. How does that feel? How much more difficult is your life with only one arm? You know, what about eating or typing or cycling? Or hugging somebody? Now, imagine you've lost your left arm too. No hands. No picking anything up. no touching, no caressing. How does it feel? Finally, imagine you've also lost your sight. You can still hear, but you'll never see another landscape. Never see the faces of those you love, your friends. How does that feel? Take a moment to walk through your day as if you were in these three situations, to feel through them. And as you open your eyes, consider, how happy are you with your life as it is? On a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being ecstatic. What do you appreciate about your life? From all the little things to the big ones. We're going to break into some small teams and find out. In this exercise, you will each take turns being the expert, because you are the expert in what's beautiful about your life. You'll start with the first person whose name is first alphabetically, and interviewing each other, saying, what is something you're grateful for right now? You have 3 minutes apiece, and then we'll return. We'll find out what's beautiful about each other's lives. Welcome back. All right, our last 5 minutes. The question is the same on this one. What did you notice? And you feel free to go ahead and speak if you'd like to. Empathy, I see. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my group forgot that we were supposed to do 3 minutes each, and we went around and shared our thing, and then we just continued kind of going around and bouncing off each other.
Nice. Kimberly noticed deep listening. And birds, they're birds in somebody's world.
Yes,
building on
it's Janine. I shared with my group. I showed some pictures. I've got a baby magpie and its family that have come in, and so they were able to enjoy some of what I get to enjoy every morning. The baby comes in and wakes me up and wants to be fed. It's a surrogate child.
Lovely. Compassion, Terrence. Nice. Other quick reflections on it.
Yeah.
As a group, we were. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say it's just a common sense that overall, having come from the exercise, that life is pretty easy. When you look at where we are today versus what if you imagine if we didn't have the subtractive thing, and coming out of that, I just felt very appreciative for where I am.
Yeah, John, we talked about that too. We talked about, the fact that we're so much more advanced technologically than what if this pandemic had hit us even 5-10 years ago. The fact that we are WebExing around the world today, for example, people working from home, the way that we do our work-life balance is completely different. The way we are pretty much becoming a cashless society with the tapping. If we hadn't have had all that technology, it would be a lot harder living through this pandemic.
Right. Wow.
So looking at these reflections and thinking about your teams, compassion, curiosity, the ability to deeply listen to each other. You know, prompt wise, there was no special knowledge required for that one. Nobody had to be an expert in anything that they weren't already an expert in. And you found ways to connect and to know each other in a way that's kind of hopefully useful. So what if you could do some of that with people you had to work with, right? And find that moment of deep appreciation before you had to go off and do your things and work in ways that are sometimes full of conflict, a little harder to appreciate the people that we work with. And now with 2 minutes left, we're going to wrap up. So we've done a number of different things exploring this idea of group dynamics and the actions we can take to help influence those dynamics. The last one we love to do is an activity called Bottom Line Up Front plus What to Expect. Because we don't have 5 minutes, we have 2. I'm going to give you what to expect first in case anybody really needs to leave exactly on time. So on the what to expect front, we will be following up early next week with the recording from this event, some descriptions. So the slides that we used, links to the references that Chris and I were building on as we put this together, you know, the script from the mental subtraction exercise, all of those things will be in the follow-up. And if you find these valuable, our next 2 events are listed there. The November 4th, 5th event is in an APAC friendly time zone. The other one is in human for you, but should be interesting as well. So if you feel like getting up in the middle of the night and joining us. And then with that, I would love to have you share what you've accomplished here today in a way that might be useful to people who come after. So in one phrase or short sentence, what's your number 1 takeaway from this session? And you can either just type it in or raise a hand and open up your mic and let us hear your thought. What's your number 1 takeaway from this session? Openness to new strategies. Sue says, spend more time thinking and acting about dynamics, not to leave it to chance. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge. I mean, we can't control the dynamics, but we can work to unblock the energy that we want to have come into the world, right? Appreciation for rich resources. Thank you, Kimberly. And how quickly and easily, right? Like those are pretty big shifts. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Any other final thoughts?
It's Friday here in New Zealand and it's a beautiful day. So it's going to be a great day for all of you as well when you get here.
Yes. And we will go on to Friday soon. Julie is in Friday as well. She slipped over.
So. Oh, goodness. Not far behind you, Sue.
Yeah, woo!
Got the Friday feels.
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll hang out for another couple minutes to chat with anybody who'd like to stay. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. It was lovely to see you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When you're trying to affect the dynamics of the meeting, I think that the whole notion of how these techniques can come into the parallel to the shape of a piece. When the stretch or the reflection is going to be prescriptive. When you can, what you can do for energy building and for affecting when everyone has become less participatory, how you can force them to engage. And I think some of that I saw in the activities we did, and getting folks managing the meeting to be on the same page of that manipulation, of understanding when it's time to do an intervention for energy. And when that can be a creative process that will move everybody. So I don't know if that is, well, at any rate, I enjoyed the activities and the potential, the introduction to some menu items that could be used in that manipulation and that engagement with a group.
Probably one tip I would have on what you just said is that if you're trying to get other people on board with doing it, I would introduce it as unblocking. I talk about unblocking what's possible in the group. Like at this point in the group, I know they're having trouble with this. So let's do something that unblocks their energy, or let's do something that unblocks their ability to listen to each other, right? And that, like that last one is, and so yes, you're manipulating the dynamic, but what you're actually doing is, if you think about it, like in terms of water dynamics, right? Like a lot of unsaid crap gets blocked up in team groups unless there's something that happens to set it free. And you want to set it free in a way that's directed as opposed to explosive, right? And that's what these are about.